Konnichiwa, fellow armchair general Samas. This is Gamer 1745 with a start of a new series of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11. No, we have not yet moved to the new version. We're staying with this. And of course, as you can tell by various things, this is Japan. Now this is going to be very new for me. We have before starting my YouTube channel, basically I'd never played any other country other than Germany. Since starting, we played a game of Britain, as well as several games of Germany, of course, and one as Italy. So this will be the first time playing as Japan, so I really don't know what to expect. I am rather worried about it, to be quite honest. As those may have been following, seen some of the posts about how hard should I play this, in hard as in the settings on it, and I have come to the conclusion that I have a few goals in mind. I have very big concerns, and I've played the first half of 1936 or so in several different settings, just sort of playing through it briefly. Like I say, I've never really played a game of this, but yeah, I've started this and played through a few times. So and part of that is learning what to do with a lot of these things here and setting it up, and that's sort of why I was doing this. As you can see, we currently have in Japan high levels of revolt risk. That is one of the things that are heavily influencing. Now some of this I think will come down, partially the 8% there from NPR, National Recruiting Policy, not selected. But still, we're going to have other things happen that are going to affect revolt risk coming up. Japan it was very stable culturally, I would say, but wasn't stable politically. So, and unlike other countries in this sort of 1920s, 1930s time period, Japan, well, may have faced in particularly Korea, but outside of the main home islands of Japan, faced no revolt risk from the populace. Its revolt risk was primarily from its own army. This is sort of, I wouldn't say unique in this time period, because we definitely see military coups like rapidly moving to the left, Spanish Republic, that the army stages a coup against it, though there's revolt risks from the various radical groups, the anarchists, the various communist factions, some Trotskyite, some Stalinite, and the socialists were sort of the government centrists or whatever for the time, as I would put into the analysis. So that definitely had revolt risk going all over the place in Spain. But so yeah, we have definitely seen army coups in other places, but we don't see a populist uprising in Japan at this time. So and I'm happy to have revolt risk when and where it's historically warranted, shall we say. And revolt risk very much affects how much resources you get. See, here we're actually currently facing revolt risk of 20%, even though it's only 6.5 now. I'm not exactly sure. It's from several of the settings in the game as to why that is. So that is some of the reasons for the settings. Okay, a lot of talking. General overall goals and objectives. Yes, I want to have a victory in China. I know a few people wanted the war in China to be, and we'll get to some of the settings. And we're going to put China on hard. Don't worry. We're not going to wimp out in fighting against China. But I want to at least be able to secure some of the rich industrial and resource elements of China fairly quickly. If for some reason getting into the hinterland is a problem, fine, we'll let it sort of simmer there. But I want to, as I'm sort of playing the Hearts of Iron 4 campaign at this time, I did not want, and this is just life happens, I guess, I did not want this to become the Japanese channel, as it were, as it is sort of coming now. Because we're also, at time of starting this, I know many of you may be watching this later, but we're also playing a Hearts of Iron 4 Black Ice game as Japan, which I was meaning it to be a prelude, a work into this, not a simultaneous series. But so we have sort of similar goals in which secure resources, island bases, and fight hopefully interesting naval war against primarily, I presume, America, but the Western Allies. And so we're going to try to form the Japanese East co-prosperity sphere. I hope I have that more or less right, and set that up. So that's what we're planning on doing for goals and achievements for this long term. And and part of what is influencing me on the choices I'm making about difficulty settings, because it's just a handful of people, though. There's normally not more than a couple hundred people watching the channel, but I'm literally talking about 2 or 3 people that seem to be posting that are pushing for harder difficulty settings. I remember one game, now this is Black Ice, probably 8 point something or earlier, and things change. But remember watching the Americans invade Japan, and that while playing as Germany, and Germany sort of doing very much of sort of a world, Africa, Europe, India type world conquest, sitting in, and America plunges into Japan, and I have to move in heavy panzer divisions to be able to face off against these American troops, and the Japanese just had no chance fighting them ground troop wise, which I'm not disputing whether that would be historically accurate or not. That's sort of what I'm worried about in facing. I don't think whatever I'm going to practically do with my forces is going to make be able to stand up against proper American armored divisions. I may be entirely wrong about that, but that is my anticipation, my expectations. Okay, so let's get started. We need to work through some of these here. Let's go down to the bottom. Leader's backstory. No, thank you. I think this breaks immersion. At least it does for me. The issue of Korean independence. Nope, we're going to keep the status quo. National recruiting policy. I just keep going for balanced approach. Maybe that's just too ingrained in me. London Naval Treaty. Yes, currently we will do that. That will help with our national unity. Bank of International Settlements. Yes, we will do that. Get that going. 1936 Black Ice start. Here we're going to do normal. I'm not, and Dark Star, is it? Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. Posted that, well, it sort of anticipated that you play on hard written. It depends on who you're talking to and on black ice. And black ice, I'll tell you, if you don't realize this, and they did a survey years ago now, 70+%, 75% or whatever it was of players who play black ice play as Germany. Now, the poll that was taken, you could pick more than one, so other nations came up, but no other, so like you could pick 2 or 3 nations is what I'm saying. One person could pick, but no other nation got beyond 30%, if I remember correctly, in that poll. That's years ago now. So black ice is very much geared for the human player to play as Germany. If I was going to be playing as the US, I would definitely go with hard, but we're going to go with normal. That gives a national revolt, because we're going to lose the NPR minus or revolt risk plus of 8, but that's going to put back a plus of 4 revolt risk. And you see energy, metal, and rare materials down by 5%, supplies down by 10%. Yes, some extra leadership and production efficiency, but supplies and officer recruitment down as well. So we're going to do that. That's just the 8% national revolt risk just is the big killer for me. I don't like maybe some of the early hits to crude oil and fuel and whatnot, and we could talk about some of the other production things, but it's the revolt risk for me, because in my recent playthroughs, I had a partisan unit within the first 10 or 20 days when I was trying some of these other settings break out in Japan. I've got to worry about partisans breaking out in Japan. That's getting a little much. So we're going normal. Not easy, but normal. Help to Abyssinia. Do nothing. Okay. We'll do mixed support brigade starts. And we're going to come up here. Espionage. Focus. We're going to do economic spying, mostly get that 1% IC efficiency for production. And we're going to do economic boost, short term plus 10%. And let's do military academy, get that done. Yes, you'll notice we didn't do the seaports just yet. Okay, and let's come over here. Look here. Okay, we want supply production. That's a 36. We want, well, those are much too late, much later. Basic education, 33. Monumental architecture, okay. Giant infrastructure projects. What giant infrastructure projects might we want to do? That's something we have to figure out if we're going to even want to research this. Okay, yes, an imperial seat of government, imperial war ministry, something like that. Very likely we will want to get that at some point, but it's in here. National highways. This I give with Third Reich events free to Germany because it was well on the way of that. Though you do have events that expand the national highway system, and they do cost in TRE, so you still pay a cost, but you get it started free. Mining, do we want that? Do we want a 10% hit to our manpower? Right now it's sort of looking good, but I don't know. Japan had a significant manpower problem. But then again, most Axis powers did. And ICs, I don't know, because we're right now at just 27 ICs. I'll click over that. So realize, and right now, most of all of that is going to consumer goods. So that's some of my thinking, though that we will change that very shortly here. So, but crude oil, energy, and metal. That's something to think about. I don't know if we're ready for the hit. Now this agricultural industry balances that out 15%, at least for the manpower. So we'd have a positive +5. Railroad tycoon, 2% production efficiency and supply throughput. 10%. That would be good. So I think we will go for giant infrastructure projects, one of those, and we want to do each one of these, and we're going to lower that down considerably. We'll still do a little espionage, a little more than one, and these will jump up in a moment with some effects changes, but let's come down to about 1 diplomacy. And officers, we'll do a little more of that. Okay, so that gives us a little bit more. Okay, civil defense. Well, let's come down here, look at command. I'm always concerned about this. Brigade HQ. Well, we have a long-term building program here. So, let's look at our... These can be updated later. Okay, these are all looking pretty good for now. That is retrofitting onto current systems, so you don't need to do that before you build. Here we go, and London Naval Treaty. Okay, so we want to improve. Well, let's look at our destroyer escorts. Okay, they're actually a little better. So we're going to improve our cruisers. We're going to start with engines. Okay, that will help out some. Oh, we also need to, and we will be getting more. So, advanced land. Oh, yeah, we want to be able to build fortresses. Okay, so that gets that started. Now, we have some. Oh, well, let's come over here. We have, we're going to leave the training as it is, but we're going to go from consumer products to mixed industries. It will require more goods during peacetime, consumer goods, but instead of a negative 10%, I'll give an actual positive 5%. So a swing of 15% in ICs. Trade offer, we would give them rare materials. Not just yet, because it's calculating my needs based on 27. Now let's speed this up a little bit more. I want a day to go through. Okay, this is one of the things I was waiting, or two of these things, waiting for to happen. Okay, so that reduces volt risk by 8%, which is good, and takes off that. So this is, we have lost the effects. So we've lost these negative effects. We've lost the Great Depression effects. Don't know if that's quite appropriate. Well, okay, Great Depression effects. I don't know how much Japan suffered because of the American Great Depression. That is for sure. There is just no pop up and pause. We like pop up and pause, but I don't know if these numbers are correct. But we've lost those effects. Good. Yes, we want the fascist militia brigade. We want revolts where they should be happening. Say like in China, in occupying China. I want revolts, or in the Philippines or wherever. If we don't effectively suppress them. Okay, for the Emperor, yes, we'll take this. It's a free railway gun, I think the only one they have. Long Lance torpedoes. First deployed in the mid-1930s, the Type 93 Long Lance torpedo, designated for Imperial Japanese calendar year 2593, of its Emperor's reign, was the first working oxygen compressed torpedo. The Type 93 was designated for the 24-inch torpedo fired from surface ships. The smaller 21-inch Type 95 was used in submarines. The Type 93 had a long-range, faster speed, and longer warhead than any Allied torpedo of the war. The Type 93 was responsible for the sinking of at least 23 major Allied warships. Okay, a couple of things that are important to note here with this. and we'll get into some of the stuff I've been reading up on all this a lot. Trust me. I know there's been over weeks without real proper new videos. I have been, even before that, putting in study time, starting with the Hearts of Iron 4 series on the Pacific War, so I'm pretty good up on it. And generally, I've done a lot of Japanese cultural studies. My fascination with Japan started with the TV series Shogun, which then I promptly went and read James Clavell's novel Shogun, and to the point that in high school I took 3 years of Japanese language studies, and of course that includes a fair amount within the course of Japanese culture, and I have been fascinated with it ever since. I have probably at least once every other year something I watch. The Seven Samurai, it's a great movie if you can deal with the subtitles. So I have a significant background in Japanese history and culture, more so than just with the war. The formative event for the Japanese Navy is the Battle of Tsushima in the Straits of Tsushima. And that is somewhere right here. Okay, Tsushima Straits. I didn't know if it was specifically between, one of these islands. I knew it was roughly here between Korea and Japan, in which the Russian Navy takes off from, I think it's the Baltic Sea, and sails all the way around, and has to go around Africa, I think. It goes around Africa, I'm pretty sure. But maybe it's Suez. But I think it needed to go all the way around Africa because of treaty issue problems, Suez, Russia, that kind of thing. All the way around here, and it was heading, well, not for Port Arthur, I think for Vladivostok, to resupply and get ready. I think at that time Japan had already taken Port Arthur, and this is Port Arthur down here, which had been a Russian, even though at the time, more or less, this was China. Russia had taken Port Arthur long before that, and then Japan during the Russo-Japanese War. And this is right around 1900, 1905, that time frame. I think it ends in 1905, the Russo-Japanese War. They had taken this out and sunk the Pacific Russian fleet, which on the Russian scale of things was a very minor fleet. So it's moving its main fleet, which I believe was primarily German built, but if somebody wants to look it up, they can. Germany was, in the latter part of the 19th century, one of the fleet building nations, often building high-tech fleets for other nations like Russia. Russia, being a major land power, did not have the industry really capable of building a proper modern fleet at the time. So it's coming up here, Japan comes out and sinks the fleet. This is the first time a relatively highly advanced European fleet for the time period gets completely taken out by a non-European power. And that includes America, because you have the War of 1812. The Americans have some great battles with, one-on-one battles with the British warships, and do some heroic victories against, but those are, for the most part, one-on-one battles. And then also the Americans had fought in the Mediterranean against various Islamic terrorists. Yes, we've been doing that since the Jefferson presidency. People just forget about it. And the Marine hymn, The Shores of Tripoli, that's Tripoli as in northern Africa. And so we've had a long history of dealing with that. But is coming up here, Japan sinks that. That's a very formative element in the Japanese Navy. Very important. The Japanese Navy is a Nihonian Navy, meaning it is a Navy devoted to the military or the naval strategy, tactics, and whatnot, thinking of Alfred Thayer Mahan, the American historian and naval theorist. He was also a captain, I believe, in the U.S. Navy. I know he was in the U.S. Navy. I think it was a captain. And of course, the American Navy is also a Nihonian Navy. And his book is The Influence of Sea Power on World History. I believe I got that title correct, which had been translated into Japanese, often just called Influence, shortened down to that. And it's a very important book. And if you want to understand naval warfare and strategy, you need to understand Nihon. Obviously, he was from an age before carriers, so he saw big battleships as being the decisive arm in naval action, and that's changed, of course. And he would, I'm sure, if around, would carriers are the thing, not those battleships, and the United States Navy, and I had some formal training as parts of that, is still very much a Nihonian Navy. Now, the primary training officer I had was a World War II veteran, and the World War II Navy was a Nihonian Navy. I don't know if it's changed now, but Alfred Thayer Nihon is still, I think, the big influencer on naval strategy and American thought. He is, for what navies are in the way they think and the way they do things, he is what, say, Clausewitz is to land warfare, if you will. Sun Tzu, even though he's land warfare focused, is really more universalists. We could get into that some other time. But, okay, so Straits of Tsushima, and it's Tsu, TSU, Tsushima. Straits of Tsushima sets up Japan as a real naval power, being able to take on a First World Navy. Although, and this must be said clearly, the Russian Navy was nowhere near like the British Navy, the French Navy, even probably the German Navy, the U.S. Navy, the Great White Fleet, I think was better by some point, but we could talk about that. So, they weren't the, it was the Navy that was sort of designed maybe to fight in the Baltic, also to sort of take on the Turks, but yeah. Japan, as part of its naval tradition and coming out of this, wants to outdistance its opponents, meaning to be able to engage with naval gunfire at greater distance than its opponents, to be able to attack at greater distance, and the idea to be able to attack at ranges that the enemy can't effectively respond to. And of course, that is a good idea. Doesn't always work out, in that, especially if you're firing a torpedo, you fire a torpedo. You don't fire a torpedo at a ship. You theoretically can, if like the ship is at anchor. You fire a torpedo at where the ship is going to be, not where it is, where it's going to be, because torpedoes, and I don't know if they get into this, they're quick, and you even do it with long range or with gunfire, where leading the target most assuredly, but you do it even more so with a torpedo, because a lot of torpedoes, I think, are running at, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, 40, 50, 60 knots maybe max, where a frigate or fast battleship is moving at 30, 35 knots. So it's maybe only going twice as fast as the ship you're shooting at. Okay, so if the ship decides to take a different course, either turn right or left, port or starboard, or engines, full reversed, which are still going forward, but it's just starting to slow you up, you can mess up your targeting, as well as just simply like long range gunfire. Yes, you still need to shoot where the enemy's going to be. This is one way to mess up your enemy's range finding, is the enemy shoots, you see, if you're the target, you see the splash, if they've missed you. What you normally do is steer towards the splash, because what the enemy's gunners are going to do is, we were long or we were short, and then change their distance to try to shoot you. But if you've moved to where they were now. Now they're either going to be overshooting you, if they get it right, overshooting you or undershooting you again. So you keep moving towards that. So even at that. So range is a wonderful thing, but even as in gunnery, accuracy, even if you have precisely accurate guns, targeting can be a problem. So this is what is not necessarily a war winner, but a good idea. The long lance torpedoes, they work really well. And the other thing is, and this I didn't know until recently, until a viewer, and was it Jeff? I forget if I'm messing up who posted. The oxygen torpedoes are compressed oxygen instead of compressed air, and when you release compressed oxygen to turn the propellers underwater, they make either no or radically less bubbles. And normally the torpedoes are running deep enough that they're not making a wake on the surface. You normally see the bubbles coming out. And so if you can't see the bubbles, most of the other, if not all of the other navies in the world are using compressed air at this time. By the end of the war, the Americans are doing some really nice electric. I think the Germans may also do that, electric battery-powered torpedoes that are even harder to see and work very well. So this is the long lance, and the really good ones are destroyer-based, not the submarine, as they sort of say. The submarine 21-inch, and part of the thing is the warhead, but also it's not just the diameter inch that matters. These the surface ones are really long, and putting a really long torpedo in a submarine takes up more space, and you need them to be really long to have the bottles of oxygen to be able to perform at the long range. I know that's a lot of talk on this, but I thought it's sort of important since it's coming up. And we get special techs for Japan for torpedoes. Okay, yes, we're going to allow scripted invasions. Choose to disable scripted for the AI. So this would, Germany will now have a scripted invasion. Norway, Sea Lion, Panzer Army, also Torch Husky invasions. We'll see how all this goes. So we're going to allow them. So they can happen in Europe. Hopefully they will happen at a sensible time. Okay, well now we have better production capabilities. Yeah, let's reduce that down some more. There we go. Okay. Well, now that we have that, let's go through and settle a few more of these things. Western Front difficulties, which here we're talking about, as you can see, I'm going up here just so that you can see that it also covers the USA, but I think it just goes off the map or whatnot. Hard, we're not going to do easy. We're going to do hard allies. So instead of giving me a lot of revolt risk and things in Japan, we are going to do hard allies. We can do it sort of individually, but we're just going to do generally the hard allies for all of them. So you can see there's many more modifiers for that. So they'll get lots of boosts. East Front difficulties. These are the Soviets. We're going to do normal for Soviets, not hard. I'm currently not planning on attacking the Soviet Union unless, and I will say this is general concept for the series, unless Germany is kicking butt, you know, Soviet Union hasn't quite surrendered yet, and we can gobble up some territory in the Far East. We are not planning on, notice I say planning, plans change, but we're not planning on a war with the Soviets unless it is very favorable to us. to do so. So difficulty settings here are mainly affecting what is going to be happening for the Germans and Italians. But so we're going to do normal Soviets. And Germany, we're our allies, or our potential allies. I don't know if we'd ever get to a point of doing a man in the high castle war between us. Might be fun, might be interesting, though I can't imagine either one of us being. I don't imagine Germany invading America and winning, and I don't imagine we being able to do so victoriously, but that might be interesting. We're going to do normal, not hard Germany. Hard Germany means that it's harder for the allies to take it. We're going to just do normal Germany for Germany, the AI Germany, and we're also going to do normal Italy. So Chinese difficulty settings, we're going to go to hard China. Not very hard. We're gonna, you can see the difference here. They're still gonna get lots of bonuses. I don't really want to completely bog us down, but I don't want to make it super easy either. So we're gonna do hard China. Okay. Now, yeah. Notice I haven't tackled the annual national focus yet. Okay. Okay. Few more things. Ship armor focus. We're going to do the historical for Japan, I believe. The Vickers non-cemented steel. I'm just sort of doing that from process of elimination. It says because Royal Navy and Kriegsmarine use crump cemented steel. U.S. use special treatment. So I figure everybody else, particularly Japan, is using Vickers. We could do some of these others, but I don't want to reduce our build speed time, and this will improve build speed time, so we want to do that. We're also going to do historical aircraft type, which would be light aircraft. Germany is heavy. We're going to do gasoline, which is also Germany, but we're going to do cast armor. Germany is welded armor is what to get to historical, but we're doing cast armor. Japan really didn't even had the ability to do cast. They were sort of probably behind the Czechs, and the Czechs made some really nice engineering designs, you know, engines, transmissions, that kind of thing for their 35Ts and 38Ts. I know I'm using the German designation, but it's the 35 and 38 of this thing, but it's like LTZ, I don't know, something like that for the Czech. But Japan really was on a riveted armor, but we're going to go with, we don't have that option, so we'll do the historic or the lesser cast armor. We're going to keep maximum number of battlefield commanders. We're going to do the historical. My Emperor, we can now choose our way. Should we focus on our navy or army? The decision is yours. Keep in mind that Yamato and Musashi won't be freely built by events if non-historical ways are chosen. Those are the two super battleships, Yamato and Musashi. They were arguably the best battleships of the time. The Iowa class comes very close, and I'm sitting here thinking about it. Not everything is down to how thick the armor is and how big the guns are on a ship. That is far from it. The Yamato and Musashi has 18-inch guns. The Iowa class battleships have 16-inch guns. The Bismarck, oh, I forget what it has. I think 16. I'm not sure, but they don't displace as much tonnage as the Musashi and Yamato. But we'll do the historical buildup, which reduces our land and armor build speed for the Mantle 42. But air and naval will be sped up is what we want to do. Nope, we don't want these, even though we're not playing those countries. Okay, we now have more Research options. Okay, so we want to do light aircraft now that we can. Aircraft, okay, a lot of training, but let's come up here to our prototypes. Okay, we're pretty good on fighter prototypes. In fact, we're ahead. Well, what we're going to do is garrison deployment capabilities. If you don't know, this allows us to move units. The AI has a tendency to go, oh, we don't need island garrisons out somewhere as much as we need to put forces, say, in China, so it pulls off a garrison from, you know, that starts out here, sends it to China, and then never sends anything back. And to stop that, they are given a weight, which means how much shipping it takes to move it. It's basically impossible to move. At least, hopefully, for the AI. This just and the AI is not allowed to research this. So we're going to do this so that we can move our garrisons if we so choose. Truck and prime mover rely. Well, let's come up to here. We have a lot. We'll get some of those. What is our artillery? Yeah, we're behind on artillery. Different, and this is one area I really haven't looked too much. High density alloys. That probably almost should be something that the Japanese couldn't search. Well, let's do some basic tank research, but we really also want to look here at aircraft. Japan did have sonar. It sucked. Did have radar. It sucked even worse. But since we have the opportunity, we're going to try to improve some of that. Can we build? No, we can't yet at least build landing craft. Okay, we need to go to a whole of at least 2 for this, so we have to wait till 38, so we can't do any landing operations unless we have some ships somewhere that we can do it, but we can't build any aircraft armament. That's critically important. Come on, here we go. Military trucks, yes, we want those. Now, you can see these have changed now that we are producing a little bit more. Effectively, but as you can see, we're still just only 29 for production, and we're not even, well, a little more than half, but for upgrades of current forces, Britain money for metal. Rare materials, Afghanistan. Okay, we'll take some metal from Afghanistan. We'd like to improve our relations with that. Okay, okay, we got a few of these, and I've sort of been waiting for some of this. We have a 60% chance of a bad result right now with this, so I'm going to presume we're going to get a bad result. So we don't want to do daily dissent or ruling party. Money and supplies we really don't want to be hit on at the moment. Illegal printing, we don't want to do more national revolt risk. So recruitment time, well, we're not really recruiting much, and we're not really fighting until, you know, much. So land organization, naval organization. So we'll take that as a likely hit. Okay, the future of Manchuria. And I've been debating this, and I'm probably going to piss people off with my decision on this and looking at this. Okay, I can fire this in absentia again. And we had a crash there. Okay. Well, that will end this episode, as you can see. That was with straight black ice, with maybe a couple of changes. I think the only change I made to that was the how strong forts are. So I'm pretty sure that's basically straight black ice. I have had that happen before if I don't wait. If I don't do all of the initial saves or the initial decisions at the start of the game, because if you notice, I was waiting on so I'm gonna have to play this again, but I don't know that I want to re-talk through it again. I was waiting on annual national focus, and since I saved it, I think is what's causing that crash. Since I saved it before doing the annual national focus is why I think it crashed. And possibly a couple of other things that were waiting to happen. So what I want you to also do is, if you're still around at this point, watching a black screen, let me know what we should do with Manchukuo. Should we inherit it all? That's probably what I want to do, just because the Manchukuoan army sucks and isn't really going to help us, and they have a lot of really good resources that would function better directly controlled by us. So I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for liking the videos. It really does help. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around for this series. I hope it's going to be fascinating. Hope it's going to have some really good gameplay. But quite honestly, and we're going to continue to explore it, it's going to be me talking a lot about Japan, about Asia, about World War II in Asia, about World War II in the Pacific, which are two connected but different things, and we'll get into why all that is. It's going to talk about a lot of that development going on. So it's going to be as much about me talking about things, in my opinion, as it is about the game. But I hope to keep that balanced between the two, because I know some people that really like the talks, some of the people that really like the gameplay. Hopefully we'll keep that balance. So I want to thank you all. You can post what you want to do, what you think I should do about Manchukuo. Yes, I want Puyi's empire, but that's more of an emotional thing than a practical gameplay thing. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.